Hello, everyone. I'm Melissa McAllister, and you're listening to the Melissa M.A.D.E Show. Now, for decades, I've dedicated myself to helping women break the cycle of dieting, navigate through all the fads, and change their lives through my nutrition coaching. Now, each week, I'm going to talk about everything from deep nutrition, mindset, self-care, the ideal workout routine, tips on how and why to implement intermittent fasting in your life, my favorite recipes that are not only crowd pleasers, but they're actually healthy for you, and so much more. Now, with small and consistent changes, you can defy aging while living a happier, healthier, and more heart-filled life. I'm so excited to show you it's possible with the right strategies that are so simple to adopt. Hello and welcome everybody to the Melissa M.A.D.E Show. I have a guest here today that I think is going to inspire you from head to toe. I don't know how else to say it. And you guys who have listened to my podcast have probably heard me give probably too lengthy of introductions because I really want you to know why I chose this specific person to have on my podcast. But today we have Miss Tina, and she is the CEO of Just Thrive Probiotics. And even before we get into the wonderfulness that there is and the love behind the supplementation line, especially us talking about probiotics, what they are and why you need them. I asked Tina if she would mind telling her story herself instead of me telling it to you, because like I just told her, for all of my lady listeners out there, especially my mom listeners, this is incredibly inspiring for you to know that you can do anything that you want, anything that you set your mind to, wherever you are at in your life right now, you can pivot hard and go in a completely different direction and still make a profound impact on people's lives. So I'm going to go ahead and get off and thank you so much, Miss Tina Anderson, for being on this podcast. And I'm so excited to hear from you. And like I just told her, I've got so many questions for her. She's just going to be like, where are all these questions coming from? But you are going to learn so much today. So buckle your seatbelts. So Tina, take it away. Tell us your story of how you got to where you are today.
Sounds great. Well, thank you, Melissa. That was such a sweet intro. Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. So we know we're huge fans of you here at Just Thrive. But yeah, my story is really interesting. I started out in the legal profession. So I'm an attorney and I was in litigation for many years, working crazy, crazy hours. My husband and I always say, we lived in this like high rise in downtown Chicago. It was so awesome. And then we had this pool. It was awesome, but I never, ever could go to the pool. I could never go on walks down the lakefront because I was literally working crazy hours. And my husband was in sales, making way more than I was, and had all this free time. I'm like, okay, what is wrong with this picture? But anyway, we started to have a family. So I started having children and just decided that this is not the life I really wanted to live, the crazy hours. I wanted to be more present as a mom. I wanted to be around more. And so I was fortunate to go into a family pharmaceutical business where I was able to be home with the kids a lot more, but yet still use my law degree and be able to work on a regular basis, but yet be home with the kids. And it was just wonderful. And I was really excited to be in this industry because I thought, I'm involved in an industry that's bringing life-saving medications to people. And it's really great. We're kind of making a difference in the world. And I had a lot of great work-life balance, and it was really good. But after being in the industry for a number of years, we really started to see a lot of the abuses going on in the pharmaceutical industry. One example that comes to mind is when we won this huge bid for a drug that was for one of the largest hospital systems in the country. And the pharmaceutical rep came into my husband's office because he was in the company as well and said, you know what, Billy, this is great. We won this contract. Now, you know what my job is? My job now is to go to every cardiologist in this hospital system and lower the number that they should prescribe this medicine to. So for example, if let's say this number would have been like 100, if they were trying to tell them, oh, even if they're at 80, prescribe this medicine to them. And we were like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. Like, this is really happening. And And, we were surprised, but then we were like, well, why are we so surprised? Because we saw it with our own relatives. We have one relative who went on one medication for a stomach issue that caused skin rashes. Then she went on another medication for the skin rash that caused heart issues. I mean, it's like, it was this never ending cycle. And before you know it, she was on a dozen different medications and never getting any better. So we just decided that we need to do something else. We are really deep thinkers. We read a lot of like Wayne Dyer and Norman Vincent Peale. I'm a huge Wayne Dyer fan. And we were like, everything, all the messages we were getting is that you need to do your life's work. And, you see that internal conflict you have and you can't really understand it. And that was really it. And so we decided to start looking into something that was more in line with the way we lived our lives with ourselves, our 3 kids. And so, oh my God, I mean, that's a whole other story in itself, but we were looking at this natural, it was an ibuprofen patch, but then ibuprofen really wasn't natural. And then we looked into all different kinds of things. And then one day my husband was working with his naturopath. And one day he called us in his office and said, you will not believe this, but we have the opportunity to buy the rights of these exclusive probiotic strains out of London University. And his naturopath, it's like, you don't understand, like there are 10 people in this country that know more about the gut than I do, probably. He's like, I know more about the gut than anybody. And he's like, this is the real deal. I always knew the conventional probiotics were flawed, that there was something that wasn't working. And he's like, now this completely makes sense. And so we kind of took our life savings and we purchased the rights to these strains out of London University. And from there is where Just Thrive Probiotic was born. And it was literally like the most gratifying career journey I've ever been on. There's no doubt. And that's why, like you had said, like I tell my kids all the time, like, what are you going to do first? Kids have such stress. Oh, what should I do with my life? And I'm like, what are you going to do first? And then maybe it'll be something you do for your lifelong career, but maybe it won't. And I think in the days that we live in now, we have that, those opportunities way more than maybe, our parents did, our grandparents did.
Absolutely. And I'm thinking back to when I started with you guys. It was several years ago, and I was new to my nutritionist certification, and you were brought to and I'm not 100% sure, but I want to say it was Nora Gautis that had mentioned your product. And she's someone I respect so highly in the business. And so I just started doing some research, and I was just blown away at specifically the spore-based probiotics. And you had just mentioned that you had really realized the flaws in, the probiotic industry, like, the refrigerated kind and the amount of CFUs and how they brag about that being the most, the end all be all. And that's really not true. Can you share with the audience, what you've seen specifically about, some of the probiotics that are out there on the market that, they sell you on, but it's not necessarily what you should be focusing on when you're wanting to heal the gut?
Yeah, definitely. First of all, I have to say that the fact that Nora was talking about us was such a huge deal because she is a researcher. Oh my goodness.
So
she vetted us like you cannot believe. It was like, I mean, she was on phones with our microbiologist hours at a time. We'd see her at shows. I mean, she's the best. And I do, because of that, I respect so much of what she, talks about. So, but yeah, there's even a lot of myths out there about probiotics, but one of the things, the first study that we did was a survivability study. So just to be defined as a probiotic, the strains need to arrive alive and deliver a benefit on the host. So, which the host is the body, or deliver a benefit to the host. And so we know that the majority of probiotics weren't surviving. We kind of already knew that they were being killed off by the stomach acid. The stomach is very acidic. It's meant to be the gastric barrier. And so most probiotics actually are being killed by the gastric system, and they never make it to the intestines alive. And so one of the first studies we did was a gastric survivability study. A third-party lab took one of the most popular probiotics sold at one of the most popular health food stores out there, and took our strains that are used in Just Thrive, the Bacillus spore-based bacteria, and actually found out that this was like a 50 billion CFU count product, died 99.99% by the time it got to the intestines. So the majority, 99% of the strains are dying by the time they get to the intestines, where the spores arrived 100% alive, which is crazy. I mean, they actually get there 100% alive, which is, it's actually not crazy. It's the way, it's what a probiotic is. A probiotic is supposed to arrive in the intestines alive and confer a benefit onto the host. And so the survivability was a huge distinction, probably the biggest one, because if you're not getting a live bacteria delivered to the intestines, you're not really getting a probiotic. Many probiotics will they deliver dead bacteria, and that dead bacteria may change something and gives people some symptomatic relief, but they're not making a true change in the gut. Then one of the other studies we did right away was something called a gut model study. And the gut model study actually showed that these strains caused a 30% favorable shift in the gut bacteria within 2.5 weeks. Again, this is it's unheard of in the probiotic space. So those are really that's a big difference, is the survivability aspect. The other big difference out there is that we've been told if you have a probiotic that's refrigerated, that's a much higher quality probiotic. And that is one of the biggest myths out there, because if you think about it, if a probiotic can't survive the room temperature of the store shelf, that means it needs to be refrigerated. It means it can't even withstand the room temperature of the store shelf. How in the world would it ever survive your body temperature, which is 98.6? And the answer is they don't, but much less, how could they survive the gastric system? And they're not. So the overwhelming majority of the probiotics on the market simply are not even meeting the definition of being a probiotic by arriving alive in the intestines and conferring a benefit onto the host. So the refrigeration thing is big. The other one is, that 50 billion CFU. CFU is colony forming units. That's how they're measured. If you go to the store, at the grocery store, they'll say CFU 150 billion, 50 billion, 10 billion. There's no science that more is better. I mean, that is the biggest. There is no science that 50 billion is better than 3 billion. There's no science that 150 billion is better than 3 billion. What we have to focus on is those strains that you do have in the product, what kind of change are they making in the gut? And I just mentioned this gut model study. We found that our product has 3 billion CFUs and makes a 30% favorable shift in just 2.5 weeks. I mean, that's, yeah, I don't know of any other probiotic that has shown that kind of study.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. And one of the things that I really love is it, for lack of a better word, it's gentle. And I love that it's something that your children can take as well. And in one of your mini blogs that I read, there's, I read that it's even, and I think I shared this as well, that, I mean, kids have a hard time taking pills, but, you can open up that little capsule and you can, mix it in with their macaroni and cheese, or you can, put it in a shake for them or anything like that to make sure that they're getting these, these healthy strains of probiotics as well, because children just as much, if not more than us today, need these kind of things, in their life on a regular basis. And I want you to talk about that. But if you can also piggyback on how long someone should take probiotics, generally speaking.
Yeah. So as far as the kids, I'm so glad you brought that up, because I'm so passionate about that. Being a mother of 3, we're very passionate about our kids' health. And it breaks my heart seeing our kids these days with all these allergies. When kids have allergies, I mean, I don't know, when I was a kid, I didn't know, I knew one classmate who had a peanut allergy from, kindergarten through, graduating from high school. I knew one of my classmates that had a peanut allergy. Obviously now we have peanut-free tables. We have all of these kids who just it's like an epidemic, the amount of allergies they have. And when you have an allergy, you have very likely you have a leaky gut. And so our kids are they're born in this world that's so offensive to our gut health. And maybe we could even talk really briefly about that. Our gut is dictating so much of our overall health. And I think that's really a starting point, is that we have to understand that the Human Microbiome Project was launched by the National Institutes of Health about 10 years ago or so. It told us more about the gut than we ever knew before. And what we know now is that it's hard to find any disease out there that's not associated with an imbalance of the gut or the leakiness of the gut. We have got to be taking care of our gut health. I mean, from autoimmune diseases to heart disease to cancer, diabetes, Alzheimer's, dementia, mood disorders, our immune system, 80% of our immune system is found in our gut lining. So we have every single aspect of our overall health stems from our gut health. It is foundational for health. And I cannot overstate that enough. And I'm so passionate about it because people are taking all kinds of supplements, their multivitamins and their vitamin D and all those things are really great. But if your gut is inflamed, you're not absorbing those nutrients. So it is just foundational where you start with your gut. And with kids, they are living in this world that's so offensive to gut health. I mean, we know we're 10 times more bacteria than human, and yet we do all these things to offend our bacteria. The antibacterial soaps, the antibacterial hand sanitizers, antibiotics that are so offensive to our gut health. And it's not just antibiotics we take, antibiotics that are found in our food supply, glyphosate, and all of these, the active ingredient Roundup that's sprayed all over our produce. All of these things are so offensive to our gut health. And I wasn't raised like that as much. We didn't have glyphosate as much. We didn't have all these antimicrobial things in our world. Now kids are just being inundated with all of these offenders to our gut health. And so it's so critical that they're on it because we see this rise in autism. We see the rise in allergies and autoimmune issues in children. So I am so passionate about kids taking care of their gut health because I mean, it's like it starts when they're young and then it gets so much worse as they, get older. So if a child has an allergy, they've got some gut dysbiosis going on. They've got some leakiness of the gut. You better seal it up before, they get older and start having other issues. So, and so that kind of lends into the following question that you had asked about, like, how long do you have to be on the probiotic? So in order to start feeling a difference, you might feel, people might feel a difference as quickly as a couple days. Sometimes it takes 30 days. Sometimes it takes 3 months. It all depends on kind of what you're dealing with. We notice people with like diarrhea usually feel something different, right away, but like constipation seems to take a little bit longer. But the thing is, like, the world we live in, I mean, it would be, in my opinion, and I could argue the point pretty eloquently, I think that we should always be on these probiotics because these strains, these spore-based probiotics, are the same type of strains our ancestors used to get from the soil. They were meant to be consumed on a daily basis. And we now have so many more offenders to our gut health in the world we're living in. So even if somebody wants to take a maintenance dose, maybe go to like one capsule every other day or a half a capsule. And you could open the capsules and mix it with food. So that's exciting too. So
I love that. When you were speaking, it sparked for me yesterday when I was sitting in the airport. I had a lady message me telling me that she really needs help. She knows whenever she eats anything, whether it's healthy or not healthy, she just, she bloats, she gets gas, she gets really uncomfortable. And one of my first questions was, are you taking a probiotic? And she says, well, I have them. She says, but I don't take them very often. And I said, tough love moment. I said, you need to obviously, work to figure out what foods are going to help you feel better. I said, but the one very simple thing that you can do every single day that would have such a profound effect on your health is to take that one little tiny pill a day, the one thing. And if you're not willing to do that, do you really care to fix this problem?
Wow, that is so powerful.
But she thanked me for that. And sometimes that's really hard to do, but you have to think about that kind of stuff. Both Tina and I will sit here and tell you guys a probiotic is, obviously the prebiotics and probiotics and healthy food and good sleep and nutrition and everything I preach constantly is so important. But literally there's nothing easier than to take that one little pill every single day to have such a profound effect, and will help you feel better as you change your lifestyle to heal and have that, the life that you're wanting to have, that you feel is so far-fetched right now, but it's really not. And it just starts with that one little tiny pill that is something you're supposed to be taking every day, like you said, anyway, and your body just needs so badly. One thing we all need to be taking care of is our gut. Now, it impacts literally everything: your weight, your mood, your skin, your digestion. And because your gut houses up to 80% of your immune system, a healthy gut is truly the gateway to feeling your best. Unfortunately, our bodies are being attacked every single day and wreaking havoc on our gut health, stress, toxins, and even just one day of eating a Western style diet. Now, thankfully, with Just Thrive Probiotic, it's now easier than ever to give your gut what it needs to thrive. Just Thrive's breakthrough award-winning probiotic is the only product on the market that's proven to turn your gut into an antioxidant factory. Do you hear that? Yes, this probiotic actually produces antioxidants right in the gut, meaning you get maximum immune, digestive, and total body health support. Wow. It's vegan friendly, gluten-free, dairy-free, histamine-free, and non-GMO. And the best part, you can open the capsule and sprinkle it onto any food or drink. It's the perfect recipe companion to keep your whole family healthy. Now, Just Thrive has been loudly endorsed by some of the biggest health luminaries on the planet, including me. This company is changing the game in the supplement industry. No fake marketing, no claims, just real, scientifically proven results. You know, that's important to me. So if you're looking for the best in gut health and immune support, choose the clinically proven, award-winning power of Just Thrive Probiotic. And guess what? You can save 15% off site-wide when you go to justthrivehealth.com and use the promo code MelissaMade at checkout. Tina, if you would talk to the audience about leaky gut specifically and some of the biggest offenders and some of the things that, besides including probiotics, that will really help heal that leaky gut, it's time for them to take out their pen and paper.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And I just will have to tell you that I love that you did that, because I think people, to the person that you were talking to yesterday, because I think it's so important to just be honest and tell them what they need to hear, because it does make a huge effect. And I always tell people, when you start on the probiotic, in the pharmaceutical world, if you take a medicine, it's like side effects may include suicidal thoughts, constant diarrhea or whatever, all these awful side effects. That's the beautiful part about, Just Thrive, is like side effects may include better mood, sleeping better, better weight management. I mean, I can't tell you the amount of customers that we've had that have said, oh, I took this because I was having some gas or diarrhea or bloating, whatever it might be. And then, but my God, I started to be able to lose weight a little bit, or, it's not a weight loss pill, but it's not at all. But it's like when your bacteria is working for you, you're better able to metabolize food. You have better fat burning mechanisms. You have better sleep because you're getting rid of the toxic load. So there's so many side effects that are so wonderful. So that's the other exciting part about it. It's so simple, and yet there's only good things that could come from it. So that's exciting. But yes, leaky gut is really important. So leaky gut the nice thing is it's exactly what it sounds like. It's basically, there's many holes in your intestinal cell wall. So you need this intestinal cell wall to block toxins that are not really problematic in your intestines. You don't want them to seep out into your bloodstream. And so you've got this intestinal cell wall that's helping that, but helping from things not going in there. But as time goes on, as all these offenders to the intestinal cell wall, there's holes that come up that form. And now all of a sudden these LPS toxins, which stands for lipopolysaccharide toxins, actually start to seep into the bloodstream. When those LPS toxins, or even food particles, could seep into the bloodstream, when those things seep into the bloodstream, there starts to become this inflammatory response by your immune system, because it's an invader. And so it's like this leakiness of the faucet. You have this little bit of leakiness, and then all of a sudden one day you have Crohn's disease, or one day you have, Alzheimer's, or you have rheumatoid arthritis. It's like people say, oh, things just happened out of the blue. And it's like, it really wasn't happening out of the blue. It was this constant drippiness. And one day the bathtub overflows, and so so it's critical for health that we are sealing up that gut lining. And that's the exciting thing about Just Thrive, is the strains, these bacillus strains that are used in Just Thrive, were the subject of the first of its kind, a double-blind human clinical trial. They took college students, healthy college students, young, vibrant, healthy, no medical conditions at all. And they tested 100 of them. 55% of them had a leaky gut and didn't know it. So they estimate, people always say, how do I get a test for leaky gut? Do I know if I have leaky gut? Well, you could pretty much assume you have it, because if 55% of healthy young college students have it, they're estimating like 80% of the adult population has a leaky gut and doesn't even really realize it. And so they took that 55% of the college students, divided them in two groups, a controlled group and then this treated group with the spores. And after sent them home with the products, 30 days, um, no dietary or lifestyle modifications whatsoever, they found that the treated group saw a 42% reduction in LPS toxins going into the bloodstream. So 42% less of those toxins, what that's telling us is that these strains are helping seal up that gut lining. They're, helping the tight junctions function better. But the worst part is that there was a 30% increase in the placebo group. So the group that had the placebo that was not treated with the spores actually had a 30% increase. So that's what I'm talking about, that drippy faucet. It's like this drippy faucet that's going on. So every time you're eating, you're having this inflammatory response because the LPS toxins are going into your bloodstream. So it's really important to be sealing up that gut lining. And the exciting thing is the spores that are the subject of this leaky gut study are the strains that are used in Just Thrive. And we know that we are actually helping seal up that gut lining, which is super exciting. And the offenders to leaky gut are kind of the same offenders that we talked about, even just to the gut. We know glyphosate, stress is another one. There's a huge connection between the gut and the brain, and maybe we could talk about that later. But I always tell people that one of the best things to do for your gut health is meditate, or whatever mindfulness practice that really helps you calm down and not be stressed out. But glyphosate's a huge offender, which is the active ingredient Roundup. Antibiotics that we take are huge offenders. They say that I think it was like a single course of amoxicillin or augmented, stayed in your system for up to 2 years, wreaking havoc on your gut. Another big thing are household products. They even say families that use household products that say kills 99.99% of the bacteria actually have kids with a higher incidence of allergies and autoimmune issues. So it's crazy, all these things that we're living in that are offensive to our gut health. So all those things are offensive to our gut health.
And do you want to touch on, for me, on the benefits of intermittent fasting and gut health?
Yes. Oh, because that is definitely something I always mention. I always say we want to, do mindful practices to help with our gut. Intermittent fasting is generally the second thing I always say. Intermittent fasting is so important because some bacteria actually need to be starved in order to proliferate. So it seems so counterintuitive, but we know that intermittent fasting is helping diversity in the gut. We know that diversity in the gut microbiome means a healthy gut microbiome. We want lots of different types of species, and you don't get that by taking a probiotic that has 15 different strains. That's like taking a penny and throwing it in a pool filled with quarters. It's not going to make any difference. What we need to create diversity is by intermittent fasting is a huge component to that. The spores also help that, but I am a huge fan of intermittent fasting. I started it mostly because of the research on how it helps your gut health. But of course, we know all the other benefits that come from intermittent fasting, and even my adult children do it too. So we're all on board. So yeah, I'm a huge fan. It's really helpful for your gut bacteria to intermittent fast.
Absolutely. So my husband just out of the nowhere got this terrible infection in his jaw. Probably 6 weeks, 2 months ago. And he was on a ridiculous, killed me, cycle of antibiotics, for very strong ones, for a very long time. And I immediately put him on Just Thrive during it, because I'm like, it can't hurt while you're taking the antibiotics. And then of course, to continue on it afterwards. And it's just really important to have on hand for something like that, especially if you have, children are on antibiotics or anything like that, to keep them on that through that cycle, and then obviously afterwards. But I'm bringing up my husband because he's a stress monger. He wins the title. Let's just put it out there. He just stresses very easy. He always has. And one of the things that I always tell him, and I tell my followers, is there's two things that you can do with stress. Either you can find ways to eliminate stress in your life, which is something you really need to be proactive about, or if there's stresses in your life that you can't get rid of, you have to learn how to manage them. And so if there's a stress in your life, you're responsible for finding a way to eliminate it or finding a way for you to be able to manage it. Like you said, meditation or, getting a hot sauna, anything like that. But that brings me to, and I just told Mick before I got on this, I said, they have a new product. I said, I think I really want to get you on. I said, I don't know a whole lot about it, but from what I've read so far, it sounds incredibly intriguing, especially for him when it comes to him and his stress levels, the Just Calm. If you would mind sharing a little bit about that, and this is honestly more for me than my followers, but I'm sure they will benefit as well. But tell me how this can help my husband with his stress.
Oh, yes. I'm so glad. As you're saying this, I'm like, oh my gosh, does Melissa know about our new product? Because this is so exciting to share with you. If you don't mind, I want to just bring up the antibiotic thing because I'm so glad you brought that up. So that's the other really unique feature of Just Thrive is most products are killed off by the presence of antibiotics. Just Thrive will remain completely stable. We have done studies on this. They remain completely stable in the presence of an antibiotic. So really, really important that if you're on an antibiotic and then to be taking Just Thrive at the same time and to be taking Just Thrive after a course of antibiotics too. So really, really important. So yes, back to the Just Calm. So this is a really exciting product. I'm sure, as you know, we don't launch products, like we have no interest in being a 200 SKU supplement company. Our mission, our core values is to only bring products that are truly missing and needed in the market. When we launched the probiotic, we were disruptors in the market. It was very difficult because we were bringing something that was very different than anything anybody had heard about. But we are committed to only bringing products that are truly missing and needed in the market. So the launch of our newest product, Just Calm, when I say launch, like it literally just came out, is so exciting because there are two sources of brain inflammation. And that, brain inflammation could cause things from Alzheimer's, dementia, to stress, anxiety, depression, all of these things. There are truly two causes of it. And one of them is those LPS toxins that we just talked about seeping into the bloodstream. So the good thing is the Just Thrive probiotic actually is like kind of takes care of that end of it. The other end of the spectrum the other source of brain inflammation are these external stressors that we deal with. Like you said, he experiences these. Everyone's going to experience stresses. I mean, we can't get away from stress. I mean, it's just the way the world we live in. And to some extent, stress is a good thing. We need some stress, but not the kind you're talking about with your husband. But I think that, so anyway, the external stressors is the part that we need to deal with. And so we have just launched a product that has this really important strain, and they're called Bifidolongum 1714. And Bifidolongum 1714 actually has the ability to reduce cortisol levels. So it actually helps, like it signals when you have high amounts of 1714 in your system, it signals the body to the pituitary. And let me back up. When we're under stress, we have, we get some external stress and we have this HP axis gets activated. And so now the adrenals start to activate cortisol. And so what the 1714 does is help, manage that cortisol and help get rid of the cortisol. And reduce the amounts of cortisol in the body. And so this is really, really exciting. And there are studies that are showing that 1714 actually helps increase brainwave activity, like more of the theta wave brain activity. So the theta wave, when you have more of a theta wave brain activity, it actually puts you into that flow state. So that's really exciting as well. The studies are just so profound on what the 1714 does. They're saying that one of the studies show that people who have higher amounts are just able to handle those stressors better. We all know people like that and we envy them, people who are just able to, see something. I mean, I'm probably more on the spectrum of your husband than that spectrum, but I don't always handle stress great myself. So this has been really exciting, this new product.
Yeah, I'm super excited for it, and I'll let him be the little guinea pig. Actually,
Yes.
I kind of want to sneak it to him to see if he notices a
Yes.
difference, if I notice a difference. So I'm going to see if I can do that because he does have a little pill box, with his little tiny supplements that I give him, and I'm going to try to sneak it in there.
That's a great idea. That is a really great idea because then you don't know if there was a placebo effect. Yeah.
Right. And how long will it take for you to see or feel a difference, with something?
Yeah. I think it's also very individual. We're looking at 30 days. I think we got to give it at least 30 days to see how you'll feel.
Yeah. Okay. So this is totally on topic, but off topic because, I know this, and I'm sure a lot of my followers have pets. I can't call mine pets. Mine are pains in the asses, but you have, and it's funny, I have a couple of my friends that get this product for their pets. You have a probiotic for pets.
Yes.
Do you yourself have pets, and where did this idea come from?
Yeah. Well, actually, believe it or not, I do not have pets. But where the idea came from is that we were looking at research and realizing that dogs have a leaky gut and they don't even know it. And so that's why, and I'm talking about dogs because that's what the study that we did on. We did a leaky gut study on dogs and found out that, many dogs have leaky gut. In fact, they're even worse because they're in the grass at the park that's been, even if you don't spray, Roundup on your lawn, the park does, or your neighbor might, and your dog's going in there. And so they really are struggling with leaky guts as well. And so we did a study on it and found that dogs have leaky gut. And now we have the Bacillus strains. It's a little bit different formula than the human formula because it's a little bit more flavorful for the dogs. But yeah, the dog, and we're seeing, that these strains are actually helping reduce the leaky gut in dogs too. So it's been really exciting. And we have no reason to believe that it doesn't work in cats or anything like that. But because we're so research based, even when we had the human product, we'd say you could give it to your dog, you could give it to your cat, whatever. You could give it to your bobcat, for those that have bobcats.
You need to put that on your bottle. Because everybody has bobcats.
Yes, exactly.
So you do have a really, gosh, there's just so many. And I really just truly want to focus on the probiotic and the Just Calm because that excites me. But really fast, I do because I'm just finishing up with people, taking them through a gut protocol, where many of them always find that dairy and gluten is a problem for them. And I always share Gluten Away because I think that's a phenomenal product, because I read somewhere, and it could even be higher, that even 60% of, I might have been from your guys' blog, 60% of the foods that are on the shelves that are labeled gluten-free still have gluten in them. So
Yes.
I mean, for celiac, they just absolutely need to steer clear of any products, period, and just eat, real food. But if you are sensitive to gluten, or you notice it just doesn't make you feel well, having something like the Gluten Away is a wonderful thing to have in your purse if you're going to go out to eat with friends or something. If you want to just kind of share that product real quick for people who have really learned that gluten is something that they just can't tolerate like they thought they could.
Yeah. So I always like to preface when I talk about this product is this is not a product to give you a free pass to eat gluten. Not at all. This is a product for people who are really, sensitive to gluten. It could be a product for anybody. I take it if I know I'm going to be eating gluten because I know gluten's bad for us. People will say, oh, I have any gluten issues. I have no reaction to gluten that I could see, but I know that if I eat gluten, it's literally offensive to our gut health, to our gut lining that we were talking about. So we know it causes that intestinal permeability, or that breaking apart of the gut lining. So we really need to focus on, so I know gluten's bad for me anyway. So I will take it, but that's not what it's meant. It's really meant for people who have gluten intolerance and they are exposed to that. There's that accidental exposure. It's like an insurance for you, if you're going to be eating out. And you're right. There was a study and it showed the biggest offenders are those pizzas, the gluten-free pizzas. But it's over 50% of gluten-free food that's labeled gluten-free actually has gluten in it, at least enough amount of gluten that could be really problematic for people with, celiac especially, but even people with gluten intolerances. People work so hard to avoid gluten, and then they get exposed to it. Even our spices, some of the spices even have gluten and they don't realize that they've got, agents in there, like wheat agents in there. So it's a really great product. So the Gluten Away, what it does is there's a enzyme in there called tolerase G, and that goes in and breaks down the gluten to like unmeasurable amounts, so immeasurable amounts. So it's really, really a great product. And we've had such, oh my God, the amount of testimonials we get on the gluten away is pretty exciting.
Yeah, I bet. So tell me, as I wrap this up with you, tell me just kind of a day in the life of Tina. Just what do you do specifically, being the researcher that you are, and the care that you put into these kind of products? You know, what is your healthy lifestyle look like to inspire a few other women out there?
Yeah, it's so funny because when I started this, I was all about like, I'm all about health. I'm all about bringing health to other people. And it's like, I just noticed that, and I have a super happy marriage. I have 3 amazing kids. We have a great close family life. And I'm like, Billy, we are not like compromising this. Like the most important thing is our family. That's the thing I'm most proud of in my life. And so we didn't, I did, but then I didn't sacrifice growing this company either. What I did was I sacrificed myself in the process. It was like I was fried to, oh my gosh, it was crazy. It was terrible. So I pivoted, started hiring people and, realizing that I don't have to do everything in this company. And so now I do so little because everybody is so much more involved. And we've got a beautiful team with beautiful human beings. So now my routine is much better. I used to wake up at like 5 a.m. and like just be working all the time and then get the kids off to school and go to their games and do all that. But now I've just, I wake up and I do my deep breathing. That's what I start my day off. I meditate off and on, but deep breathing is what I generally do on a regular basis. And then I am a walker. I love being outside. I live in Chicago and the weather's awful and I still walk outside because I just love to be outside. And so walking is like my drug of choice. And it's kind of like I power walk and I jog. So I listen to one song walking, one song jogging. And then I come home and I just start my day, whether it's, doing podcasts, doing research, answering however many emails I get, but I'm really trying to I've been really good about compartmentalizing. I have my list. I make my list of things to do the night before or the end of my workday. And then I work on it the next day. And there was a book called Eat That Frog. It's kind of an old book, but worth reading again. There's no word wasted in the book. It just makes you be super organized. So that's kind of, my day. Eat super healthy. I think I do. And now my kids are older and not going to as many games, although my son still plays college basketball. So I get to go to his games, which is nice. But that's kind of my day.
And if anybody, happens to be watching the YouTube video of this podcast, their jaw just probably dropped that you said that you have a son in college.
That's my baby.
Yeah, you're obviously a testimony to taking care of yourself. And I was laughing when you're saying how stressed you were. I'm like, you needed your just calm when you were starting this business.
You're right. But you know what I do always say? We know that stress starts in the gut and there's all of our calming hormones, our GABA and all of our neurotransmitters are produced in our gut. And I'm a huge fan of taking the probiotic for that reason, a huge fan of taking Just Calm, but nothing, no probiotic, nothing will ever help you as much as just changing your lifestyle. You have to make true changes to your lifestyle. Like for me, we hired our COO, then we hired the rest of our team. Like we can't do it all, we can't do it all. And so I always preface that by, really try to figure out things, if there are things are toxic in your life or causing you a lot of stress, really try to eliminate them and then, start your healing journey.
Yeah, for sure. That was such good information. And it's funny now that I do these podcasts, because I used to listen to podcasts and I would sit, feverishly writing down facts that I would learn when I would listen to podcasts, to share with the audience. And I'm sure I have a lot of followers that do the same. That was just so much valuable information because you hear that people, probiotics are because of the brain gut connection and how much they've learned how important the gut is here recently. Probiotics are the thing, and people will take it, but they don't know why. They don't know why they should take them. They don't know how long they should take them. They don't know what they should be looking for. So this has to have been such incredible peace of mind for people to go, okay, I get it. I get it now. And I understand what to do with it and what to use and why I'm using it, which it is, releasing some stress, because
Yeah.
Why do you take magnesium? Why do you take vitamin D? Why should you take a probiotic? To understand that is everything. I'm always telling people education is key. So,
Yeah.
as we wrap this up, is there one thing that if you could tell this audience, just make sure that you remember this one thing from this podcast, what would it be?
Well, I think you just hit it right on the head.
Sorry.
Is well, it's like the whole, one of our core values is empowerment. I mean,
Yeah.
it's educate, like empower yourself to take control of your health. That's what I really don't feel like other probiotics are my competition. We feel like pharma is our competition. Like I
Mm,
want people to get away, like, and there's a place for pharmaceuticals. There
yeah.
is definitely a place. They are like, sometimes, like you said, your husband had to take an antibiotic. I mean, they're life-saving. Antibiotics are life-saving. It's the unnecessary use of them and the unnecessary prescribing of them. But the bottom is, I just would love for people to just empower themselves with knowledge. That's why we spend so much time on our blog. Our blog is very heavily researched. These aren't just like, these are very research blogs written by, people who are scientists and understand the science. And so we focus on education because we want to empower the customer, and we encourage people to listen to podcasts like yours. Like, that's why you're so good at what you do, because you're asking the right questions, because you've been listening to so many podcasts, and it's like, those unanswered questions that you're like, oh, why didn't they ask that? So I would say just to empower yourself on taking control of your health. That is, and it sounds so like broad, but you just got to just start somewhere. Go to people you trust, like Melissa, different people that you trust, and just learn and just take control of your health. Really, you're the best advocate for your health. I mean, when I go to the doctor now, I give my doctor the list of blood work I want, and she's like, oh, why do you want this? I'm like, I just do. Okay, just give it. So, but I
Yeah.
mean, God, 5 years ago, I would never have done that. I mean, I'd be like, whatever you say, and just, you got to be your own advocate.
Yeah, I just was talking with one of my good friends. He had his blood work done and was asking me questions about it. And I'm like, well, where's your vitamin D reading? And he's like, what? And I'm like, they didn't measure your vitamin D?
I mean, how can they not, in this day and age, how can they not measure vitamin D? It's like unconscionable.
Yeah, it is. So you can find, like I said, you'll have to, Tina, remind me, because off the top of my head, is it just thrivehealth.com for the website?
Exactly. Justthrivehealth.com.
Yeah, and then that's obviously the Instagram account as well. But you guys, I'm telling you, it is a tremendously good blog. It's one of the ones that I jump to first when I get the notification for it. I really enjoy reading them. They're written for the average person. They won't go over your head. You'll get tons of information and just a ton of aha moments, which is what made me fall in love with this company in the first place, is the fact that you care so much to educate people on why it is that they're taking what it is, and what to look for and what to look for to not have, which is just as important. So thank you, Tina, so much for your time. And I absolutely love your company and so grateful to have people like you out there creating supplementation that truly makes the biggest difference. Gosh, I don't know if you'll agree with this or not, but maybe back in the 80s, the supplementation world was helpful, but not necessary. But in today's day and age, I feel it's necessary. If I ever hear somebody say, you can get everything you need through food.
Yeah. Yeah. Not with our soil being so depleted and over farmed. And yeah, unfortunately we don't. I mean, we just aren't getting it. So I couldn't agree more. And I did want to mention that we have a coupon code for your listeners too. So if you go to justthrivehealth.com and you just enter that, when you check out Melissa M.A.D.E, you'll get 15% off. So I just don't want to forget to mention that.
Thank you. I appreciate that so much. And I'll have all that information in the show notes for you guys. But it is one of the very, very first products that I felt comfortable, because I was just very nervous about that, to be honest, to put myself out there with a company and a supplement that I knew was needed, that it would be life-changing, and the company would stand behind such an incredible product. And that is you guys by far.
Oh.
So I appreciate the partnership and look forward to many more years. And I'm going to let all of you guys, including Tina, about the Just Calm. He doesn't listen to my podcast. He's very slow, so he's really far behind. So it'll be a while. So I'm going to get it, and I'm going to sneak it, and I want to let you guys know.
Oh, I can't wait. I cannot wait. Oh, that's awesome. Well, thank you, Melissa. I literally love talking to you. Appreciate the partnership too.
Yeah, thank you so much. And as I always tell you guys now, M.A.D.E also stands for make a difference every day. I want you to wake up prepared and I want you to go to bed proud. Have a nice day, everybody. Wow, we've reached the end. But before I leave you, I'd love to hear from you. After all, it's not every day that someone reaches out and asks for your opinion. And to me, your opinion does matter. So please share this episode with anyone that you think needs to hear this message. And remember to rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. My name is Melissa McAllister. And until next time, thank you for being your own health advocate.